Do you know the feeling when you have a clear idea in your mind? Maybe you're creating an artwork, maybe you're writing something, or working on a project.
You know how it's supposed to look like. But when you put it on paper, maybe you paint it or you build it or you write it down, you look at it and it's not satisfying. You might even say it's a complete failure.
What makes it even worse is that everyone around you does better work. You look at your peers, maybe look online, see all the people you admire from your field, and they all do better work. And that does not feel good, right? It might feel even frustrating.
Have you ever experienced something like that? Well, if you have, it might be because of something called the gap. What does that mean?
We heard the concept of the gap from Ira Glass, a radio host and producer. This is how we understand it. When we start learning a new skill, we get exposed to a lot of good work. Our theoretical knowledge develops fast. We learn how to recognize what's good and what isn't.
But our skill, our ability to do it develops much slower than that. And during the time when our skill doesn't match our expectations, we are in a perception gap. Not only can't we do it, but we are painfully aware that whatever we produce just isn't good enough. And this can be unreassuring, even extremely discouraging.
Gasper and I were in such a gap for a long time. We learned to sketch from our professor at university. He created these beautiful sketches in a blink of an eye, and we saw how they should look like. And then we tried it out, and they look nothing like that. And we were so frustrated.
So we went out and looked for quick solutions. One was we bought the same pen the professor had used. Because if we'd had this one pen, our work would look amazing, right? Wrong. You might have guessed it wasn't the pen that was making the difference.
And despite that, we kept on going for a long while. Until eventually, after years of practice, we started hating our sketches less and less, and with time became comfortable with the sketches we produced. We closed the gap.
But once we did, we set new goals for ourselves. We decided to learn how to use color. So we watched online tutorials, we read books, and we learned about color theory. You know, blue and yellow produce green, violet and yellow look good together, things like that. And then we tried it out. But the results looked horrible to us. What had happened? Well, you guessed it. We slipped into another gap.
Because once you close one gap, you set yourself with a new set of goals and expectations, and you start another cycle, and then the third one, and the fourth one. We call this the progress DNA.
The progress DNA is a series of gaps. As time passes, we move from one gap period into another. And all this time, our skill is improving. It's this raising of expectations towards ourselves that propels us forward. And there will be short periods of bliss, but most of the time it will be uncomfortable.
What makes things even worse is there's internet and social media. We follow the leaders in the industry and their profiles. You probably also follow a few, right? We see the amazing work they produce and might think to ourselves, our work just can't keep up with it. So it might even discourage you to that point where you just stop creating what you love to do.
That is why comparison is the death of creativity. The more you compare yourself to others, the bigger the gap will get.
Don't compare yourself to others, but to you from yesterday. Why is that important?
Others will always be better at something than you are. For example, I'm good at sketching trees. But whenever I try to draw a portrait, most of the time I will fail miserably. So if I compare myself to a portrait artist, I might feel I'm an awful artist. And if I do this often enough, I might get discouraged to a point that I will quit.
A much better idea is to think of what you do. And here comparison can be used as a positive tool. For example, can you think of something that took you a long time to learn, like a skill or a craft? You have it? Okay, so can you remember how good were you when you were starting out? You probably realized you progressed. You're doing well.
And if you look back at your work, you will also notice the areas you can still work on and you can improve in. So go through your old stuff. You might even find some forgotten gems there. And remember, stop comparing yourself to others. Instead, compare yourself to you from yesterday.
Meanwhile, if you want to start practicing feeling comfortable in the gap periods on the Progress DNA, we suggest an exercise. It will rekindle that fun creativity that got you started what you love to do in the first place.
It's a drawing exercise we do quite a lot, and all you need is a pen and paper. You don't have to be an artist, and actually you don't even have to know how to draw. Are you up for it?
Together, we'll create a couple of doodle monsters. It's great exercise to practice your visual thinking and imagination, and it will also help us let go of our expectation and perfectionism. Get your pen and paper. We'll draw 3 blobs or shapes. Let's start. Let the shape be as random as possible. Great. Don't think about it. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Once you've done with the first one, let's do the second one. And maybe do it a bit differently this time. Let your hand flow freely. And let's move to the third one. Great, you've made the first step. Remember, it's okay that it's completely random. Now it's time to turn on our imagination. Let's look at the first blob and imagine it's a small monster. Let's ask ourselves a few questions to make it a bit more interesting. What kind of monster is it? What kind of character does it have? In what kind of mood is it right now? Decide that for your blob. This one is grumpy, I would say. Give it 2 eyes. Anywhere on the shape, wherever it feels right for your monster. A grumpy mouth, curving down. 2 legs. Two horns. And a tail. Congratulations! You have created a small monster out of a random doodle. This wasn't too hard, right? Let's move to the next one. How about making this one happy? Let's give it 2 eyes. a happy smile, with the tongue sticking out. Two legs, and two arms. Remember, keep it simple. How do we feel about the third one? Let's make it surprised. Draw two big eyes, a round, small mouth. Maybe add some hair. And this time, 6 legs. And we're done. Congratulations! You just drawn some fun and interesting monsters. Be proud of yourself. You can put your pen down, rest, and just listen.
And if you enjoyed this exercise, you might also want to try doing some smudge monsters with coffee smudges or paint smudges at home. Have fun with it. Give your monsters names, and you might even want to invent backstories for them.
This is a fun creativity exercise anyone can do, no matter if you're an artist or not. It trains your imagination, but most importantly, it makes you feel comfortable in the gap. Do you still remember what we said about the gap? It's when you feel uncomfortable or even frustrated because the results don't match your expectations. In this exercise, you had to create something with random doodles on paper. You couldn't predict the end result. You were training to feel comfortable while producing unexpected monsters.
And for those of you who want to keep improving and feeling better on the progress DNA, we have a challenge. Would you be ready to give it a try? You already did the first step with us by doing the doodle monsters. We call this the Shitty Art Challenge. We did this with our students earlier this year. What you do is you commit to doing bad art or shitty art every day for a certain amount of time for a period of 30 days. Now, why intentionally create bad art? When you start creating something, if you do it with the intention of turning out kind of shitty, then this completely removes the pressure of the work having to be good. And this is fantastically liberating. And there's more. If you don't care how the work will turn out, then you give yourself the liberty to experiment. Maybe you want to experiment new techniques, new materials, new ways of thinking. You will break the boundaries you have created for yourself while trying to create perfect work. So here are some examples we did during our challenge. This is something I did. And here's another example, a horse with a bit of a strange leg. You can see it from the back here. And this is something Sonja did. And these are some examples our students did for the challenge. They're all drawings here, but they could be anything. They could be shitty poems or photographs or paintings, whatever your creative field is. We committed to doing this every day to create a habit. Because doing a little bit of something every day is much more effective than doing a lot of something only once in a while. And by the end of the month, Sonja's challenge sheet looked like this, and mine looked like this. I had to give myself 5 extra lives in order to get through.
We encourage you to try it out. Again, you don't need to be an artist to do this. This exercise is great for anyone who wants to work on their perception gap. It will free you from comparing yourself to anyone else. Because the goal of shitty art is not to look good or better. You can't compare it. And as we know, comparison is the death of creativity.
And you can already put the first cross in your calendar for doing the Doodle monsters with us today.
So next time you're mastering a new skill, remember it's going to be a long path along the progress DNA. There will be periods of gap and periods of bliss, and each period will pass. And not to make the gap periods too long, remember, don't compare yourself to others, but to you from yesterday.
And if despite that, a gap period might seem to take forever, keep the following in mind. Progress comes in form of jumps and plateaus. Let me explain. Have you ever had the feeling that you're improving too slowly and maybe you're not improving at all? Well, it might be that you're just standing on a progress plateau and you're missing the big picture. Your next jump might be around the corner. So patience is key here.
Bill Gates once said, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
So next time, if you feel unsure of your work or frustrated, remember you're moving through a progress DNA. And if you do that, you will become more patient. You will be able to focus on yourself and your work instead of others. And I bet you'll be more happy. And you will allow yourself to create wondrous things.
So keep on going. Compare yourself to you from yesterday and you will stay creative.
Thank you very much.